Prepared by the OET education team. Whether you're here to find out more about the test or to get tips about improving your writing skills, there will be something for everyone. Each masterclass covers 3 main sections: the format of the test, tips to help you prepare before the test, and how to succeed on test day. At the end are a few slides about where to go for more support after you've watched the masterclass. The writing test is profession specific. This means you complete a test which is appropriate for your profession. Regardless of your profession, the format of the writing test is the same. It is the 3rd test on test day. The task is to write a formal letter on a medical matter. Usually it will be a letter of referral, although the reason for referral can vary. You are given 5 minutes reading time to read and understand the case notes which explain the patient and their condition. You then have 40 minutes to write your response. Your letter is assessed against 6 criteria: purpose, content, conciseness and clarity, genre and style, organization and layout, and language. These can be more clearly understood in these sentences. Purpose means whether the purpose of the letter is immediately apparent to the reader and sufficiently expanded in the course of the letter. Content means whether all the necessary information is included and accurate for the reader. Conciseness and clarity means whether unnecessary information is omitted so that the letter is an effective summary for the reader. Genre and style means whether the register, tone, and use of abbreviations are appropriate for the reader. Organization and layout means whether the letter is organized and well laid out for the reader. And finally, language means whether the accuracy of the grammar, vocabulary, spelling, and punctuation communicates the necessary information to the reader. As you can see, each statement focuses on the reader of the letter, and the masterclass will return to how you can do this in the Prepare section. Each letter is assessed against the criteria here in Melbourne, Australia by a minimum of 2 highly trained assessors. Any borderline assessment or assessment scores which do not match will be assessed by a 3rd independent assessor to ensure the grade you receive is valid and fair. Of the 6 criteria, purpose is weighted lower than the other 5 assessment criteria. As the format slide showed, considering your reader is very important. Each writing task will be about a different patient who has a different healthcare situation and therefore different case notes. This means it's essential that you personalize your letter by making choices of what to write about and how you write it, and avoid template answers that may not be appropriate for that particular situation. The writing task comes at the end of the case notes. You should turn to it first when the reading time starts, as it tells you the most important information: who you are writing to and why. In this sample question, we can see that the reader of this letter already knows the patient, which will influence what we include in the letter. You need to spend the reading time understanding the case notes and identifying the information to include or omit. In this example, the reader would know this information, but it would be logical to include it as part of the reason for writing. On the other hand, this information is also known by the reader, but is irrelevant to include as it does not relate to the current situation and can be omitted from your letter. The information this reader will be most interested in is that which is new to them in these 4 sections. One of the choices you will need to make to write a good letter is the structure, the order you write about the information. It should be in order of importance. The most important information, which is highlighted on this page, is important because it will help the reader continue the patient's care. Which order you write the information and which notes you combine together into one sentence are further choices you will need to make. This information, highlighted on the page, is less important. It will not impact the patient's care post-discharge, but it can be useful to include to introduce the most important information or to provide explanation for the requests which will be made to the reader. These two pieces of information are unimportant, either because the information is out of date or could be assumed by the reader. It can be omitted. There are many different types of patient and healthcare situations. This will impact the way you structure your letter and the information you provide. Think about how your letter structure would need to change if the situation was an emergency. If you were writing to someone who is not a healthcare professional, for example, a social worker. If you were writing to an allied health professional or specialist, for example, an occupational therapist or rheumatologist. If you were updating a healthcare professional already involved with this patient's situation. Taking this into account and choosing the best structure for your letter will ensure you achieve a good score. When reading the writing task, remember to read this important information. It reminds you that the case notes are designed to be a prompt only. As has already been mentioned, you need to choose a structure which is appropriate for your reader and to write about the case notes in the clearest way possible. As a healthcare professional, you will be very busy and there will be many demands on your time. For this reason, making sure your letter has a clear purpose, reason for writing, is important as it's something busy healthcare professionals appreciate. You can do this in two ways, and it might be helpful to think of it as a circle. At the beginning of the circle, the start of your letter, you explain why you are writing. It may not be in the first sentence or even the first paragraph, but it should be near the start. Then, having explained the situation, you return to this reason, purpose, later in the letter to give more details and complete the circle. It gives the reader a sense of completion, that they have all the information they need to continue caring for this patient. Passive forms are appropriate for formal letters as they allow you to make the patient or treatment the focus of the sentence rather than who, you, is providing it. In this example, the first sentence puts the writer at the start, but it is not important who made the arrangements for the MRI. The passive allows us to show the most important information by placing the MRI scan and details about it at the start of the sentence and omitting who made the arrangements as unnecessary information. Make sure that the verb tense you use creates the meaning you intend. It is likely that you will need to use a variety of tenses in your letter, and if you make a mistake in your choice, it can lead to confusion for the reader. In these examples, changing the grammar from present simple to past simple to present perfect provides different information about the patient's balance. To summarize, the best ways to prepare for writing are: practice writing about a variety of healthcare conditions to a variety of readers and for a variety of reasons. Regularly practice writing for 40 minutes with the stationery you plan to use on test day. You can write in pen or pencil, but it's important you are comfortable with your choice. If possible, get feedback on your writing. Make a checklist of your common mistakes and refer to this when you proofread each time you write a new letter. Do look at official sample answers for writing tasks, but do not see them as template structures you can learn or phrases to memorize. Instead, they can be helpful in demonstrating letter layout as a good model of clear natural language using a variety of grammar, and as an example structure for this particular set of case notes. To make sure you get the best possible result on test day, here are some final tips for the reading time in the writing test. Read the writing task section first to find out the reader and purpose of your letter. Read the case notes carefully and slowly. At the end of each line, ask yourself, does the reader need to know this? If no, it should be omitted from your letter. If yes, how important is it? And how early in the letter should you mention it? After reading through the notes once, think about your reader again. How are you going to explain the patient and the situation? During the writing time on test day, consider spending a few minutes planning. Mark the case notes using the decisions you made in the reading time. Cross out anything to be omitted and mark those notes to include. Perhaps star anything really important. Plan the topic of each paragraph so you are clear which notes will be included in each one. If you make a mistake, cross it out clearly and carry on. Make sure you end your letter. If needs be, when the end of the time is approaching, leave a few lines space, write the ending, and then return to finish your final paragraph. Allow time to proofread your letter. Put yourself in the reader's shoes. Do they have enough information to understand the situation and what is required of them? Read for accuracy. Remember your personal checklist and check for the mistakes you typically make. Don't worry about the word limit. If you have correctly selected the relevant information and avoided unnecessary detail, your letter will naturally be of the right length. The assessors do not count your words, but focus on whether the information you have included helps or hinders the reader to understand the situation.